Today on the show, we have with us Fixed Temple Toys. In a world where technology and innovation reign supreme, a small one-man company named Fixed Temple Toys has managed to create something truly unique and otherworldly. Their product, Glorbles, are ectoplasmic shape-shifting entities that have taken the art toy scene by storm. Glorbles have become a must-have for collectors around the world. These pouty and forlorn creatures come in an array of shapes, sizes, and colors. They're so distinct you'll recognize them from across the room. But what makes them so special, besides their eccentric look? It's the push for global world domination. We are thrilled to have on with our guest today, Fixed Temple Toys, Colton. Hello, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you for taking the time and being here. So, we're going to start off the same way we start off every episode, which is, would you share with us your creative journey? Please tell us your origin story.
It's very interesting. I would say I would think I'm probably one of the few toy artists who fell into the scene without having any idea that toy scene was even a thing. It started, take it back to the beginning where it kind of started with a dream that I had. The roots of it go to graffiti, street art. But even before that, I never had much of an interest in graffiti or things like that outside. Didn't really pay much attention to it. But I had this dream when I was younger, and it was a very kind of apocalyptic, authoritarian dream where there was all this heavy military presence, and they were hoarding all of these people, including me, in a line onto this kind of futuristic train or tram type thing. And the train had the ceiling and the walls were glass, so you could see outside, you could see what was going on. And after this kind of military presence hoarded us onto this train, the doors closed, and as the tram started to move, these grapples started attaching to the outside of the train, and these people started attaching to it and started painting things. And all of the military presence inside the train, there was nothing they could do. They were outside, the train was moving. It was just kind of this movement of secret ninjas that attacked onto this train and were using art to kind of put their message forward. And I woke up from that and was like, whoa, there's something there. And I've always had a little bit of an interest in ARGs, augmented reality games, just things that kind of make the outside world a little bit more interactive and a little bit less gray than it is. And one of those things for me was making these kind of cartoony characters, and to make them more real than just in my head is putting them in places that they shouldn't be, which is kind of relatable to myself in a sense. And I love the idea that someone walking around maybe having a bad day or just in their head might find a little treasure that I stuck under a bridge or a little wheat paste that I did somewhere, and just kind of make the world a little bit more fun, a little bit more childlike. And I never expected it to go to where it's been. At first it started with just stickers and wheat paste and stuff like that in Portland. I live in Salem, but Portland is the art hub around here. So the first actual 3D toy that I made in my head, I was just gonna put it in my sticker packs and sell it, a little $5 extra to have a little trinket of my character that you could actually hold in your hand. And in that process, I had met a guy named Sir One Toys, Sir One Collectibles, and he had a 3D printer and he offered to print my first character for me. And after I had got that printed, I wanted to get it molded. So I was looking around locally to someone who made molds and did that kind of thing. And I was pointed in the direction of Bean Largent Art. She is a very, very well-known mold maker and toy maker, not just in Portland, but a lot of people go to her to have their molds made. She's incredible, incredible work. And when I had reached out to her, she said, instead of, you just paying me to do this for you, since I live in Portland, why don't you just come up here and spend 2 days with me and I'll just show you. I'll teach you how to do it. And it was amazing. I got to go up there and hang out with her. I helped her pour resin casts for other people's toys, and she pretty much taught me everything that I know about casting and molding and all that stuff. And she introduced me to an online Instagram group called Booze and Buddies, which was this kind of like a show every Friday. and they would feature different artists, and it would just kind of be a focus on that artist, and that artist would release toys to sell. There'd be giveaways, so even if you didn't have money to buy something, you could get in the chat and just participate, and you have a chance to be on the wheel spin, maybe get yourself something free. And that first show that I was on, I made $1,000 that night, and I was like, whoa, this is something. I just didn't even think it was possible. And through that group, I met Fed Up Toys. He was one of the host of Booze and Buddies. And that first year, they're like, there's this thing called DesignerCon. Had no clue about it. I'd never even heard of it. And he offered me a spot on his little display shelf, kind of like this, to sell toys. So my very first time at DesignerCon, not last year, but the year before, I was able to sell toys at, and that was just an incredible experience. And it's just so crazy to me. This whole thing has kind of happened on accident, just through word of mouth and through friends and introducing me to other friends. And right now I'm only 2 years in, and it's just been the best thing that's ever happened to me for my mood, depression, anxiety, all that stuff. It's just been so much fun. I'm living my own dream right now.
Okay, that's just wild. I'm like blown away, like 2 years into it, and the fact that someone was like, "Oh yeah, you want to learn how to do this?" Like, dude, this is the perfect storm. Colton, this is so cool, man.
It was amazing. And it also had a little bit of that imposter syndrome of like, I didn't have these huge collections of toys before I started doing this, just completely new to me, a whole new world.
Okay, so a dream turns into the toy. Like it's this railroad. When you're building these toys and designing these toys and come up with the ideas, what's influencing besides the dream what you decide to create? Because the stuff is freaking cool as hell.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear what influences it.
It's not only art, it's a anomaly containment center. You know what I mean? It's got to be more interactive than me just putting something out. Something that kind of blended up all of my own nostalgic influences, things that I love. I'm a big believer that if you make something that you like, that's something that you would want to buy, something that you would want in your home, then other people that resonate with those same influence are going to want to, have it or enjoy it as well. And some of those biggest influences for me are Kirby, The Thing, sci-fi influences for sure. Kind of like an SCP type feel where, yeah, maybe these things really exist and no one really knows about them. Maybe they're shapeshifting type ectoplasmic beings that could be the computer you're talking to right now, maybe. And them also being a form of scapegoat that you could blame your problems on was another kind of fun idea for me. Or like, oh, you've got stuff going wrong in your life. It's probably a glorble, kind of like a Carl Jung analogy to different archetypes that are inside all of us. Things that we struggle with, things that we thrive on, things that we make up in our head to try to soften the blow of things. Yeah, and really just the aspect of wanting it to be something that's playful, but also holds that mystery a little bit of, what is this? Kind of like my business cards. I don't know if you saw the business card, but they're like government ID badges. And I thought it would be cool to have, if you buy a Glorble, you're not just buying a Glorble, you're adopting a Glorble. You're now an employee of Fixed Temple Toys, and you're helping the process of identifying these different Glorbles. It's a thing. You got to identify them. There's tons of them. We still don't know much about Glorbles and all the different forms that can come out and exist out in the world. So it's just been a ton of fun. It's really been a thing that I've wanted to make interactive and kind of a group project, something that everyone can take part in and have a good time with. Influences, let me just start off with that. Starship Troopers, Flubber, Kirby, Alien, The Thing, District 9, all that type of stuff plays a role in the creation of Glorbles and what I'm trying to do with the whole process. And it's just been incredible. It's just been a lot of fun.
I love how much world building you have going on and how clear your vision is of building this interactive world around the Glorbles. So, two questions. One's quick. When did you have this dream of the dystopian apocalyptic, like how old were you, if you don't mind me asking, like when that dream happened that sort of kicked all of this off?
2016. That is when I first started kind of dabbling around with the street art and things like that. That is not when the first Glorble was made. Even my first toy that I made wasn't a Glorble. It was this little floating guy with flames in his hands. And then I made a Glorble just for fun, and the Glorble ended up being the thing that kind of people really ended up liking. And I had a gallery show for art in Portland before I made toys. And the first Glorble I ever did was a 2D Glorble that I had cut out of wood and painted. So to me, even then, that was like, oh, we're getting closer to 3D. We're getting a little closer to it being more than just this flat object. And that's when, yeah, and that's when Glorbles really started to manifest themselves. And the name Glorble alone was kind of a mix between orb and glob, which goes back to the Kirby, the Flubber influences. Yeah, it's just been crazy. I mean, just this last year, I got Glorbles added as graffiti into a VR game called Ghost of Tabor, which just won VR Game of the Year. Insane. And how did that happen? You miss every shot you don't take. I just asked. So I messaged one of the devs in the Facebook group and I was like, hey, I make these characters. I make toys. I do street art. If you guys want to use these characters, you're more than welcome to. I'd love to see them. And initially he said no. And then about a month later, he messaged me and he said, hey, I was at a texture meeting and got your art approved. So you'll have Glorbles in the next map. And the next map that released, he said, you've got 6 of them around the map. I'm not going to tell you where they're at. You got to find them. So I got to put my little VR headset on and go around this map and try to find my own characters. And I was tearing up. It was just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And it's just been one thing after another, even being on this and meeting you guys, you know what I mean? It's just opportunities have just been mind blowing. I'm so humbled and just so like living in the moment and trying my hardest to keep this kite in the air. And I'm so touched that, so many people are touched by what I'm doing. I've got a buddy on Instagram who him and his wife have Glorble tattoos. What? What? That's crazy to me. That's so wild to me. It really has just been amazing. I can't say it enough. And the artists that have, been helping me out, Plastic Pizza, I got to give a big shout out to them. They've been a big supporter to me from the beginning as well. Yeah, it's been awesome.
That's so cool. Okay, so my second question is like the VR game, you mentioned your interest in augmented reality games and really building kind of this interactive world. Like if anyone isn't following you on Instagram, they definitely should because like you have so much interesting lore building with a lot of the media that you drop. Can you walk us through a little bit about the development of the world around the Glorbles? Like was this kind of like all of an was there an end game when you first kind of like designed the character, or was it something where you're like, oh, like I really like this character, and then you built a story and like, you're like, oh, we could get more interactive as it became more popular, or was this something you were kind of like hoping could happen from the very beginning?
Definitely something that happened after the character itself was created. And then starting from there, and there is an end game, and the end game is a lot. I haven't really talked much about it, but it's layers. Even the name fixed temple in metaphorically to me is meaning fixed as in place, as in still, and your temple is being your body, being still, being calm, being fixed. And the layers of Glorbles being something that might exist in our real life, but also might just exist inside of us as the imaginary characters we make up in our own heads is one of those layers. And I'm still changing things and building it as we go. It's not all set in stone yet, but I've got a pretty clear idea of what I want to do with it and where I'm going with it. And, focusing less on just making things and putting them out as having, actual meaning behind each thing that comes out. The initial story with the Glorbles was that they're interdimensional soul suckers. And the human resistance to try to battle this invasion of Glorbles is not able to have a hands-on approach because humans have souls. And Glorbles, they suck souls. So, which opens up a whole other area of me being able to make kind of robotic characters that the humans use robots to handle the global invasion because robots are soulless. So there'll be more of kind of the AOA is what I call it, the administration of anomalies is kind of this human platform of people that are trying to battle the global invasion through kind of a wall. You know, they're not able to hands-on, but they'll use different robots, different things like that to be able to transport, fight, or whatever else these Glorbles. So I'm having a blast with it. There's times I just sit and I'm just like, where am I going? I live in this fantasy world. You know what I mean? I get to live in it. And that's the best part of all of this is like, even if nobody else liked what I was doing, I'm having so much fun with it. And that other people are enjoying it is such a blessing.
We're going to tell the story. If you've listened to this podcast enough, Chris always tells a story to ask a question, which is stupid. But so I found you at this year's DesignerCon because you were hanging out with our Stilts Kai and all our in our world, in our little buddy world. And I was like, hey, this guy's master of marketing. Like, and this character, like, I get sucked into this world, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta have him on the Rick, we gotta have him on the podcast. The shit he's doing is just cool. And and then I got more and more into you. I was like, oh my God, like his imagination and his creativity is just freaking awesome. And he does all this stuff with this character and playing the pool hall and the world you're creating. You are one of the most interesting and creative people I've ever met. And if you knew my background, you'd be like, holy shit, that's scary.
Wow.
Yo, Rick's nodding over there. Okay. So I want to pick your brain completely. Okay.
Yes.
So you told me you had this dream and you start building these toys, which are phenomenal. Do you have like an art background, like a drawing background, an illustration background?
Well, I'll start off by giving a huge shout out to my mom. Raised by my mom, she has always been extremely, extremely behind my art, doing arts and crafts, always creating things. You know, it wasn't always just drawing, it was really anything. Before toys, I was big musician, big into music and in a band in town, and we were on the radio in the Netherlands, and music was really like my jam. We were playing shows everywhere, and that would have been the thing that I was like, this is what, is fit for me. But at the same time, this day and age, without CD sales, everything kind of being online, most of the money made from music for me was doing shows. And then unfortunately at shows, how much money you make is dependent on how much people are drinking and how many drinks people are buying. And if you have a bad night where people aren't buying a ton of drinks, you don't make very much money. And as fun as that was, it still wasn't necessarily something that I could really choose to put all my time and money into. And after the dream, wanting to make stickers and wanting to make characters, that's when I first ended up getting an iPad and getting Procreate and learning to do 2D art and make my own stickers. And then not only that, then being able to make my own music that I add to the background. Like even in the video you saw of where I'm holding the paper in the Glorble outfit and I'm talking about the Glorble imposters, which was about I won't say names, but someone who, came out with a toy that I felt was a little too similar to Glorbles. And that was kind of my playful approach to it. Instead of just, coming out being like, what the heck, shaking my fist. It was like, greetings, Guardians. There are Glorble imposters among us. And just because something looks like a Glorble doesn't mean it's aligned with our purpose. It doesn't mean that it's got the same goals as us. And again, adding it into the lore, adding it into what I'm trying to do. And I took pottery, I took sculpting and stuff like that in high school, and I would have never thought, I'm not a natural at sculpting. If you handed me a piece of clay right now and told me to sculpt a Glorble, I could not. But then getting Nomad Sculpt on the iPad and just playing with it, it was like, holy cow, this is so much more user-friendly. And I was sculpting awesome stuff on there. And that's when I was like, I got to get this printed, got to make this into a little toy. So it's really been just kind of a domino effect of creative things and where stuff is landing. But yeah, I've always been a little bit into drawing. As a kid, I can't even tell you how many Godzillas I probably drew, how many Dragon Ball Z characters, stuff like that. It was big on Toonami, big on coming home and watching my cartoons, and you just kind of living in that. So creativity has always been something that's been encouraged in my house, and my family is some of my biggest fans, some of my biggest supporters for what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, my mom's boyfriend was the first person to ever buy me a 3D printer. I thought 3D printers were something you had to go to school to use, something if you were in college, they might have a 3D printer you could play around with, but I didn't know that it was something that was just readily available that you could just kind of affordably buy and play around with. And
Shout out to mom, by the way. Let's just start there. Yay, mom.
yes, yes.
So it sounds like you've always fortunate enough to in an environment that fosters creativity and not restricted. So now it's starting to make sense. Like, and you do music, so and a little bit of video editing. I get a little of this. You're like Rick. Rick is like a little of this, a little of that. Mixes all his spices together and makes a hell of a chili, like you do. So I want to get into the other side of your brain because the creativity in the world you're creating that Rick was starting to hit on is just so much fun to pay attention and play with. Is it planned out, or was it a big script, or is it just like at the moment throw it against the wall and see what sticks?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, that video kind of handling the imposter Glorbles, that was a thing where I was like, I got to do this tonight. I got to address this right now. And then again, that was like, it just ended up turning out so much better than even I thought. I don't really know how this stuff is going to turn out until it's done. Same with like that Glorble helmet. I was like, it'd be cool to make a Glorble mask. Shout out to my friend Nick over at Vinyl Was Canceled. He's got a bigger 3D printer than I do, and he helped me with that. I sent him the Glorble file, hollow. He sent it back to me in 8 different pieces that I put together like a puzzle. And yeah, and then the whole Glorble agent thing is kind of a play on the idea of the lore of when Glorbles, kind of like Alien, like the face huggers, when Glorbles attach themselves to a being or a human or an object, there's a moment of DNA extraction where that Glorble is uploading the DNA construct of that entire person. Therefore, when it detaches, it can then mimic that person to its entirety. So a Glorble being attached to an agent of the AOA was part of it. It was like, this is an agent of the Administration of Anomalies, but he's also taken over by a Glorble. He's got the Glorble head. He's being controlled by this Glorble. And how fun would that be to, go places like DCon and be in character and hand out government badges. And it really is based in fun. If I can help people's mood and depression with this stuff like it has helped my own, that's what it's really about for me.
It's super amazing and generous. And, I definitely also, on a side note, I was totally going to ask, like, I need to know how you made that mask because it looks so good. And so I was like, oh, like, was that 3D printed? Was it sculpted and cast? Like, as someone who dabbles in fabrication, I was very interested. Anyway, but back to your story around Glorbles and just kind of this entire journey. It feels like you've been able to ride this wave of happy circumstance after, you meet the right person that introduces you to this person that kind of like kicks off the sculpting and like all of the production of toys and then get to DesignerCon and like et cetera, et cetera. Have there been any like big challenges along the way, or has this actually, because it sounds to me like this on the surface level, this seems like just this easy, smooth ascension to global world domination. But I'm going to assume, like most of us, that isn't the case. But I wanted to just ask you about that.
Well, it goes back to the music, I suppose. Writing and performing my own music in front of people is 100% easier for me than like if you asked me to go do karaoke with you right now. I am a very, very high anxiety, high social anxiety person. You won't find me hanging out at parties. You won't find me hanging out at bars. I like to be at home. I like to be creating things. I like to be out of that spotlight for the most part. And so art has been great, especially with kind of this, I put out the character, what I'm making rather than myself. And that's been awesome. The struggle would definitely be putting myself into this character. I'm sweating bullets under that mask. I'm anxiety, you know what I mean? But it's one of those challenges for myself to put myself in that situation and kind of face that battle of anxiety. And of course, having a mask on does help make it not feel like it's me necessarily. I can have a little bit of anonymousness in that. But yeah, that would be probably one of the biggest things. Going to the DesignerCon that first year on my own, that was the first time that I had like traveled by myself, stayed at a hotel in a different state, even though I'm in Oregon, it's just California. But I mean, even this year now I'm going to New York, and those things are scary for me. I'm just not used to that type of stuff, especially with the mind that I have of I really go down. That's the blessing and the curse, I suppose, of my mind is I go down every road that I can all the way down, whether it's best case scenario or worst case scenario. If I'm at the airport, I'm thinking I'm going to miss my flight the entire time. I'm thinking my phone's going to die. I'm not going to be able to call anybody. I'm going to be stuck there. I am unfortunately a very fearful human being, and something I'm always kind of working on is just chilling out a little bit and relaxing a little bit, but also accepting it more and more, because it also does help me kind of think about things a little bit deeper than I feel like maybe someone normally would, and the pros and cons of that.
First off, I just want to comment on how awesome it is that given the level of anxiety and fear you have, the fact that you still choose to challenge yourself and put yourself in situations that stress you out in a lot of ways, I think that's super commendable. And I know it's much easier to just run away from the fear, and the fact that you're looking at it head on and confronting it, I think is very brave. Are there things that you've cultivated to help you along that process? Because I know a lot of people who see something, get scared, and then just don't do it, and you're choosing to actively step into something that makes you very fearful and uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, one of those things I would say from the beginning, some of my collectors and fans that I have, although are not great in numbers, are so solid. And knowing that I have those people they're not just interested in buying the toys that I come out with, they're interested in learning about the story. They want to know what's going on in this world. And that helps me a lot. And same kind of thing with music. I would put in my head when I would play a show, I'm not playing this show for every single person in here. I'm playing for the one person that it does reach, the one person that is feeling what I'm putting out. That's why I'm doing it. And focusing more on it, pinpointing to that is a lot easier than worrying about what everyone thinks, what everyone's gonna feel about it. Not only that, but I get to make toys. This is such an unreal thing for me. Like, if I'm gonna make myself uncomfortable doing any job, it's gonna be this, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna try and take this as far as I can, because I'm so in love with it. Every aspect of it. It's just been really like out of speechless about it. I don't even really know what to say. It's just I hope that I can continue to do this. Putting myself in situations that make me uncomfortable to help further a situation that makes me even more comfortable later on, being able to do something that I want to do, or not having to go to work and do something that I don't want to do, is so important to me. So I think you really just got to think about what you really want and what you're willing to sacrifice for it. And for me, being a little uncomfortable, or maybe some people looking at me being like, "What the hell is this guy doing? This is stupid." Yeah, it's always going to be my head. It always is. I think in any of us as artists, it's always we're going to look at our own art a little less shiny than we look at everyone else's, because it's what we're creating. So having a big support team behind what I'm doing has been, I mean, the biggest part. If it wasn't for all these amazing Instagram friends that I've made and connections that I've made, I think it would be a lot harder to just, put everything out and wonder what's going on.
I love that we're talking about this. Okay, so let's thank you first. As someone in his 50s, I have all those anxieties you were talking about. And in my professional career, I talk to like CEOs of Coca-Cola, the head of Japan Railroads, and people will be like, I'm like, okay, I'm going home by. And they're like, Chris, let's go party. I'm like, no. And they're like, no, you're an extrovert. You just talk to. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I see you do it all the time. No, that's not the real me. That's me learning how, after all these years, to do it. So just quick, it will get easier.
Yes, yes. I mean, it already has.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, right? It's gotten easier for you as you've gone along, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And the other reason I wanted to talk about this, when you're a really creative person like you are, it's a lot more prevalent in people. Is that a good way to put it?
I think so.
Okay. So I would love, if it's all right with you, to hear some of the things, like if you're creating something, like what challenge you gave yourself. Another example is, sorry for doing this, Ray Harryhausen, if you know who he is. When he would animate something, he would say, today I'm going to challenge myself with X. And that's how he got over his anxieties when he was doing something creative. So I'd love if you could help the audience give examples of those kind of things that really helped push you out of the impossible syndrome.
Yeah, well, I mean, acceptance is the number one. I know I keep referring this stuff to music, but it's a lot easier to go play music for people when you know that 3 out of 5 of them like it than when you've not heard anything positive about what you're putting out and you really don't know how anyone's going to feel about it. So support is huge. And also kind of bringing it back to what I said a little bit earlier, I really do think that if you're looking around at what else is doing good and you're trying to mimic that, I don't think that's always the greatest way to go about stuff. I really think that if you're true to yourself and you make something that you would want, you make a toy that you would want on your shelf, there's other people that are going to vibe with it. You're not alone, even though a lot of times we feel alone. I know I definitely feel alone, but this world is huge. And there's people out there that feel exactly like you, that love the exact same things that you love, that were raised on the exact same cartoons, that have been through a lot of the same traumas. And when you put art and stuff out there, I think sometimes that'll reach people on a subconscious level in a way they don't even recognize. You'll like things and you don't really understand why you like them. And then you hear the influences and you're like, oh, well, no wonder. I also love Kirby. I also love Flubber. I also love Alien. And you've just made this into kind of a blender of it. So I think it's really important to try to hush down that voice in your head that's telling you that you're going to fail and just send it. Just do what you're going to do. And you know, if something doesn't pick up right away, it doesn't pick up right away. You just keep doing your thing. And yeah, just being genuine to yourself, I think, is important.
I love it. Just send it. More people need to just send it. Such good advice, and I will be greedy and ask for more. Colton, what piece of advice would you give other people who are having trouble sending it, right? Like if they're other people who want to be more creative and kind of pursue more creative things, but they're just paralyzed or scared or don't know where to start, like what would you tell someone like that?
I would say you miss every chance that you don't take, every one of them. And if you aim high and you miss, you're still going to land a little bit higher than you would have normally. And I mean, I'll use the Glorbles being in that VR game as a Ghost of Tabor as a huge example of that. Like there was a 1% chance in my brain that that was going to be a thing when I asked, you know what I mean? That was one of I knew that I was going to get told no, but you miss every chance that you don't take. And the world is very unpredictable and you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to like your stuff. And the more you convince yourself of that, the more that anxiety goes away because you surprise yourself. You surprise yourself with the things that happen. I still can't believe, I mean, getting my art into a video game is bucket list type stuff. You know, it's a type of thing could maybe potentially see happening to me 10 years down the road when Glorbles are humongous if they ever become so, even then. And I'm not. I'm still very new. I still have less than 2,000 followers. And so that would be my advice is you miss every shot that you don't take. And you really don't know how people are gonna react. And also a lot of when we talk about a lot of us feeling that same anxiety, a lot of people are probably thinking that they can't get their art into video games. So they probably never ask. So ask. You know, just do it. Just do it because you don't know. That would be the biggest for me is yeah, you miss every chance you don't take. And that has really, really paid off for me in many ways.
I love that because yours is a much better way than mine because mine in my head is the soprano run through my head. it. And I like literally, I have to yell that to myself in my head. And then every so often my wife yells at me, stop saying it out loud. Yes, dear. Yes. But you're
Yeah,
right.
well,
You're right.
yeah, I threw that out there when I sent that message to him, because it was
Dude, you got
probably a
balls. I
no,
love
but
it.
maybe it's a yes. And also how you react, you know what I mean? I initially when he said no, how you react is everything. You could ruin your shot right there by being rude or having a bad reaction to being rejected or any of that. As long as you're kind and accepting of all that's going on, opportunities and ripples are insane. You do something here will affect something way over here. Months, years later, how you carry yourself, how you treat others, all of it plays a part in everything, I think.
And to add to that, who you surround yourself with. And you've done a very good job of surrounding yourself with some amazing people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very blessed to even be around a lot of these artists. It's just collaborated with some of my favorite artists. It's just insane. Yeah.
Going off that, just to backtrack for a little bit, how did you respond when you got that rejection? Are you willing to share kind of like, yeah, what did you say back to this like Facebook message, I assume, where the guy's like, oh, sorry, you can't do that or whatever?
Well, his initial message was, sorry if we open that door for you, we're opening that door for a lot of people, which I understand. You give a mouse a cookie. I was just like, hey, I was expecting the no. So I wasn't heartbroken about it. It's very much like, hey, I think I probably even said what I told you guys. You miss every chance you don't take. Doesn't hurt to ask. And I think I followed up with, I'm loving the game. I already was a big fan of this game, and I was in the Facebook group, and the devs are very active in that Facebook group, just talking to people and stuff like that. So I just followed it being like, hey, thank you so much. I understand 100%. Keep up the good work on the game. I'm absolutely loving it, and I can't wait to see what comes out next, and something around those lines, and ended it there. And I was not ever expecting to hear from him again, especially not a month later. And that seed, you know what I mean? That seed was still there. And that seed is really what is all that matters. You don't know when it's going to grow or if it's ever going to grow. But that seed being there and then him being at that texture meeting, them talking about textures and the graffiti that's going to be on the buildings and the walls. And then instead of having someone have to come up with new graffiti, they're like, hey, I just got a message from a guy a month ago. Seemed like he does some cool stuff. And what do you guys think of this? And they're like, yeah, we dig it. Let's do it. And I sent him a Glorble in appreciation after that. I was like, this is unreal. Can I at least send you a Glorble? Like, what is your favorite color? And it's on his desk, which is also so cool. And, even though in the game, it doesn't say Fixed Temple Toys, it doesn't say Glorble. It's just the character on the wall. But again, it's the seed. It's the subconsciously planting that in people's minds. So then maybe one day Glorbles continue to grow and continue to get bigger, it'll still be recognized by, where have I seen that before? And if it's connected to something that they also love, like a video game that they love, that's even better. And as you guys know, marketing is one of the most important things, especially with a world full of people creating amazing art. A lot of times art that I would say is levels and levels beyond what I'm doing. If you don't market it well, it's tough to make work. So marketing is a huge focus of mine.
I love this because this is actually what Chris told me after he met you. He was like, I got to get the fish head guy. And or like, I was like, I don't think it's a fish. Or, but he was like, he's walking around with like a blue thing on his head. Like, he's amazing. We got to talk to him about marketing. And I love that it's a Glorble and not actually a fish. But I see the fishness. Anyway,
You're not the first person one of the guys at DesignerCon, as I was walking, I hear this behind me, hey, fish man. And I turned around and he wanted to get a picture. So that was another thing. I took so many pictures with people, so many pictures. And that alone, like, if I didn't sell a ton at DesignerCon, it didn't matter. If I could get in those tagged pictures, that alone is worth it. That alone is worth the entire trip. It's not about sales. It's about getting the name out there, getting the story out there, and then, hoping that everything else follows in due time.
totally. But Chris told me he was like, this guy's a genius at marketing. And so I did need to ask you, like, how have you thought about marketing? Because I know for a lot of creative peoples, there's sort of like a, oh, I don't like to market myself, or like they see it as like this thing they have to do when they'd rather be creating. I'd love to know, like, do you have a background in marketing, or is this just something that you've sort of developed over time? How have you kind of built up this robustness around your marketing?
I have no background in marketing. And I would even argue that I still don't think, I mean, I still don't think I'm that great at it. I'm doing a collaboration right now with an incredible artist. His name's the Mecha Panda. He recently painted one of my horn Glorbles, and he knows what he's doing. And that one video he posted of the painted Glorble of mine has done better than anything that I've ever posted. You know what I mean? Things that like over 200 shares or something right now. So when I think of like crazy, crazy marketing, I still think I've got a long ways to go. I'm trying to get those followers, you know, I'm trying to get those people interested in what I'm doing. And I try to look at what hashtags are working. I post in different places. You know, I love Reddit, the different Reddit forums for vinyl toys and toy creators. I'll throw stuff in there every once in a while and show people what I'm doing. Street art is a huge, huge fun guerrilla marketing technique. People are intrigued by things they don't understand. And if you can make something have a little bit of mystique and mystery around it, then it's in our nature to go, what is that? I'm gonna try to figure out what this is, what's going on, and to blur the lines of it being a product, but also not making it about. It's kind of disappointing if you go through kind of like an ARG augmented reality game, and then at the very end you find out it's just to sell you something. It's just to push a product. That's not what I'm trying to do. I could remember as a child thinking about the backyard, thinking about Pokemon and how cool it'd be if Pokemon were real, and that everyone that works and creates Pokemon must be super fans of this idea. They must be super fans of these things being real. And then you get older and you realize that a lot of that stuff is just marketing. It's just making it so people will swallow it easier. And I hated that. It hurt me. It hurt me that these people weren't fully in love with the product. They're fully in love with the money that might come behind it. And again, I'm not against money. I would love to be able to make this a full-time thing and be able to fully provide for myself, but there has to be soul behind it. In my head, I'm like, if there's soul behind it, people are going to recognize it, or I hope that they do. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I would never expected that answer from you because I'm just amazed at the creativity and the marketing stuff you've done doing. But your approach is dead on the way you're thinking about it. So kudos, baby.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot.
I'm gonna change the subject and Rick's to just upset Rick for the hell of it. Two questions. I'm interested because the first one won't take you long to answer. The first question is how many drawings and how long before you came up with the goobers or orb, because orb's my favorite. And if you had the magic wand, this one's gonna be your longer answer. If you had the magic wand, where do you see it going?
It was never a drawing. Again, I wasn't expecting it was the Glorble was something I made just messing around on Nomad. It was maybe the second thing that I ever sculpted digitally.
I hate you even more now in a nice way.
Like I said, if you handed me clay, I would have told you I'm not a natural sculptor. So really, that's another thing I'm going to tell everyone right now. If you've messed around with sculpting or clay and you don't think you're any good at it, please give digital sculpting a try because it is night and day different. It is, I can digitally sculpt. I cannot sculpt very well with real clay where I'm using my real hands, and every time I smooth something, I'm indenting something else on the back, and it's so user friendly. So I would say another thing is turnarounds in 2D are tough for me. If you said draw a Glorble right now from the front, draw it from the side, draw it from the back in 2D, it's hard for me to think about how that would look. But doing it in 3D, when I can just move it around and I can do each finger rather than one finger, and then, you know, kind of the giving the illusion that there's more fingers behind it doing 2D, if that makes sense, was so much easier for me. Working in 3D, so much easier. And even for some of my stickers, little inside secret, I'll take one of my 3D renders and put it in Procreate, style it or move it in the way that I want, and then make that into the 2D image. My brain has just worked so much better with 3D than it ever did 2D. And as far as where I would want this to go, I don't know. That's the crazy, because I don't have this end goal of like where I see things. It's just I want to go bigger. I would love to see some giant, the new Sphere in Vegas. I want a Glorble on there. I want to see a Glorble face on there. I want some giant Glorble installations, cause style. I want statues. I want installs. I want to find someone who can make me giant concrete Glorbles that I can go drop around different cities that are too heavy for anyone to pick up and take. Those are my ideas for what I'm like wanting to do is I just want to spread the Glorble invasion more and more and more. And I want it to be like, I don't really know what it is. Is it art? Is an anomaly response team. It's both. It's two things in the same. And yeah, I don't know where I want it to go. I'm just excited to see where it does go, man.
That is awesome. I can't wait to see a giant to just be like traveling someplace and then come across this giant like 7 foot Glorble and I'll be like, I know the guy who made this.
Oh, I can't wait. Hopefully we'll get there.
Me too. We're all hoping for you. This has been awesome, Colton, but all good things must at least start wrapping up. Where can people find you? How can other people induct themselves into, I guess, anti-Glorable fan club, maybe? I don't know.
If you're interested in joining the AOA, the Administration for Anomalies, Instagram is really my biggest right now. Fixed Temple Toys. Facebook, I have a Facebook. For whatever reason, Facebook's tough for me to keep up on. I'll hopefully have a website soon. Hopefully have more YouTube stuff coming out. Character-wise, I have some ideas for, I don't know if you guys saw like the wedding crash that happened in California. That was pretty insane, which I guess, I don't know if we could briefly go into that. I wanted to get some pictures in the Glorble suit. And I told my buddy, I was like, I want to go someplace that looks really bougie, get some pictures there, a real fancy place, and I want to go somewhere that is a dive bar and have, so I want to have some pictures where I look like I'm fancy, 007 Glorble agent, and then I want to have some pictures of me in a bar that looks like a dive bar and I'm having a drink afterwards. And when we went to this bar, they were already having a wedding party and everyone there was kind of already in suits and I slipped right in and the groom that was there was doing karaoke. And I told my buddy, I said, get your camera out. I'm gonna go dance. So I put the mask on and I went up and I put my arm around the groom and we all started singing and dancing and all these people were pointing and jamming out. And it's all on my Instagram if you want to check that out. So I'm hoping to do more stuff like that. Maybe some videos of some Glorble sightings in the style of Sasquatch sightings or different things like that. So YouTube's going to be more of a thing. Videos are going to be more of a thing in the future. But right now, Instagram is where it's at for me, at Fixed Temple Toys. And yeah, I've got a lot coming out. I saw you guys had Mile High Safubi. I've got some Safubi Glorbles coming soon. They are in the works right now. Really, really excited about that. Those will be a little bit more of an affordable Glorble that I'll be able to take around to different shops and stores and then try to market Glorbles to other people who aren't as aware of designer toys and maybe don't want to spend $60 to $100 on a toy. So using different ways to just get Glorbles out there more and more. I'll take all the help I can get. If you're listening to this and you think it's rad what I'm doing and you got some ideas, let's talk. Message me. Let's work together. I'm all about collaborations. I'm all about using each other to build that ladder. If we all work together, we're all going to work a lot faster than if we all try to just tackle this stuff all on our own, especially in a world that has so much art, and so much good art. It's a sea full of amazing things and it takes work to try to stand out a little bit.
All right, before we do the usual ending, everyone right now just go to Instagram, follow You're Not Worth It, and watch the wedding video because the ending's freaking hilarious.
I will say them dragging me out might have been a little staged, but the rest of it
Just a
was not
bit.
staged at all. The rest of it was not staged.
And two, I got to hit again, mad props to a person with imposter syndrome and all anxiety to do what you did in the head at a wedding and crash. So mad kudos to you, baby, because it made great
Thank you.
content too.
That was one of those fuck it moments,
There it
Do it
is.
for the gram. And thank you guys so much. Yeah, hopefully I haven't been all over the place in what I'm talking about, but
Dude, master of ADHD, please, you're fine. Listen how I
okay.
ask you questions. It's all good. We let our guests have the final word and any fun they want to have with it. So the floor is all yours, my friend.
The Glorbles are here. There's lots more coming, you guys. I'm not stopping anytime soon. I got plans and I'm taking this as long and as far as I can. And to all my supporters, to everyone who has, helped me get this far, who has taught me everything that I know, I really owe it all to you guys. It wouldn't happen without anyone else. So just major shout outs to everyone who's been supporting me and been supporting the world global domination and that's been looking into what I'm doing a little more than just surface face value. It means the world to me, and really, I'm living my best life right now. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm having a great time. I'm happy. So I guess I'll end it with that. Thank you guys so much for having me. This alone is like mind blowing to me. I'm listening to the rest of the people you guys have had on here so far on Spotify, and I'm again imposter syndrome. I'm like, do they know I'm new at this? Like these people are doing special effects for movies. You got some big people on there. And I'm so flattered and humbled to be on here talking with you guys. So really, and it's been so great meeting both of you too. Even just watching what you guys are posting on Instagram lately has been a blast for me. You guys are both so talented yourselves. You don't need me to tell you that, but it's been really, really cool. Really, really cool, you guys.
Thanks for checking out another episode of Origins, a Creative Journey, a DesignerCon podcast. Please follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're streaming this on, and check us out on Instagram at Origins, a Creative Journey. And if you have any suggestions or questions or comments, email us at deconpodcast@gmail.com. In the meantime, go make some art.